So I've been wanting to make a video about the New York Knicks and the Brooklyn Nets, but I wasn't really sure where to go with it, and I thought why not talk about Immanuel Quickley and Bruce Brown, two guys that play a little unconventional for their position on the court. Back in November of last year, the Detroit Pistons traded Bruce Brown to the Brooklyn Nets for John and Musa and a second-round pick in what is now looking like one of the off-season steals. At the time, you didn't really expect Bruce Brown to get that much playing time on this Brooklyn team because they had a lot of depth at guard with Kyrie Irving, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Karis LeVert. The trade definitely made sense though because they needed to bring in guys who competed on defense and were fine playing in the background on offense next to star players. With the Pistons in his second year, he took a pretty big leap in his individual development. He looked way better as a passer, secondary scorer, and his efficiency went up. If you remember that year, Derrick Rose, Reggie Jackson, and Blake Griffin were all dealing with injuries, so there were games where the Pistons just had him creating a lot of offense with his dribble. This was not something you really expected from Bruce because they had other guys on the Pistons roster to do those things. And for the second year in a row, he's doing something we didn't anticipate him doing before the season started. On the Brooklyn Nets, he's a 6'4" shooting guard that guards point guards or power forwards on any possession. Then on offense, you see him setting the screen and playing as the roll man in pick and roll situations. He's the rare shooting guard that doesn't really shoot. He shoots below 30% from the three-point line, but he and the Nets have found other ways to use him. Brown is a big beneficiary of the attention that Harden, Kyrie, and KD get. He's always cutting to the rim or circling around and finding space. Some of the shots he takes he has no resistance on, but you have to have a good feel for the game to recognize when to cut or when to loop around so your defender misses you for that half second they're thinking about helping. They sometimes even have Bruce sitting in the dunker spot, and that's usually reserved for the center who can quickly go up for a dunk. He's got pretty good hands, so you don't really have to worry about him fumbling the catch. He's been crazy accurate at the rim. According to NBA.com, Brown is shooting 73% within 5 feet of the rim. Yeah, he's usually wide open and not taking a bunch of contact like other guys, but still that type of efficiency usually comes from big forwards and centers that weigh above 230 pounds, not someone who plays out on the perimeter. That's pretty unusual, honestly. So Bruce has been taking advantage of cuts to the rim and sitting in the dunker spot. How else do the Nets use him? At times they use him as a screener and a roll man. He's kind of doing what Yusuf Nurkic or what Draymond Green does when defense double Damian Lillard or Steph Curry. There are some benefits of having a small guy setting a screen. Having Bruce set the screen gives defenses a different look because he's more agile than the big guys who usually set a screen, so he can set the screen and slip to the basket in a second, and if he's open, Kyrie or Harden will find him for a layup, or Bruce will make that quick pass if the help comes. And another benefit about having Brown set the screen is that usually one of the weaker defenders are guarding him, so even if Kyrie or Harden don't find him rolling to the rim, you're putting your best guy against their weakest guy, so you're still creating an advantage. He also has more than passable vision as a playmaker, so he can make the quick drop-off pass under the rim or to the shooter in the corner. Those days being used as a playmaker in Detroit are helping him out in Brooklyn. They are simple reads, but it takes a lot of skill to be able to control your body after a catch on the move like that, then being able to react quicker than the defense does with the ball. You know, there's definitely some players in the league under 25 that would have a hard time accepting a role like this. Brown got better as a playmaker last year, and a completely normal reaction from him would be, I want to see if I can get better with my dribble, but he's completely fine with the unconventional role. In the last 10 games, Bruce Brown is averaging 14 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and shooting 61% from the field. The funny thing is, when you see role players getting easy shots like this and putting up high efficiency numbers, you sometimes wonder, is he really this good? Is he just another guy benefiting greatly from playing with James Harden who can find him easy shots? But it's not completely like that. The Nets have great spacing, but he does have a good idea where to be. Brown has had a pretty interesting career in just a few years. You come in as this hustle guy who stands around on offense your first year. Now everyone's hurt in your second year, so now you're playing a bit of point guard. Now in year 3, you're basically playing center at times on a team that people can think can win the title. And he's in a contract year, so he's going to get a long-term deal in the offseason somewhere. To transition this into will the Nets be able to defend stuff in the center spot, I said on Twitter the reason why the Nets win or lose in the playoffs is not going to be because they didn't get a competent backup center that plays like 8 minutes in the playoffs. The Blake Griffin thing is a wait and see for me. You might as well roll with DeAndre, Jeff Green, or KD at center with Bruce Brown in the lineup. I like those options better, and I could 100% see Steve Nash trusting Brown in the final minutes of a close playoff game depending on the matchup. When you're mapping out the categories of NBA point guards, you have your Steph Curry, Dame Lillard, Jamal Murray, Trae Young, and Kyrie types, guys that like to take advantage of the three-point shot with a pick and roll. You have your Russell Westbrook, John Morant, John Wall, De'Aaron Fox types, guys that put major pressure on the basket with their drive. And then you have your pass-first types who are initiating everything, getting everyone in their sets, players like Rajon Rondo, Chris Paul, and Kyle Lowry. Of course, I'm missing players, and some of them are way better than others, and you could put them in multiple categories, but there's usually some type of group you're in with similar players. When Immanuel Quickley was drafted at number 25 in the first round, people thought he was picked way higher than he should have been. One of the bigger criticisms I saw was that he was more of a second round pick. They were skeptical he could succeed as your point guard because he played the two in college. But within like the first few weeks of the season, this Immanuel Quickley draft grade that CBS Sports gave the Knicks back in November is going to age pretty bad if he continues to play like this and get better. I'm not really sure what point guard category I would put Quickley in. He's a three-point shooting guard off the bench that will benefit next to another perimeter creator or a big similar to Julius Randle. Quickley is not exactly an elite athlete for an NBA point guard, so he needs to find other ways to score when he gets closer to the basket, and he's done it with the floater. When you go to NBA.com stats, they have two shot types for floater attempts, the driving floating jump shot and the floating jump shot. I compared him to other point guards with those stats. Mike Conley, Trae Young, and Steph Curry are all guys who use that to some extent. On driving floating jump shots, Quickley has made 26 out of 65, more than Conley but not as accurate. He's made more than Steph, but he's nowhere near Trae Young in makes and attempts. Those Trae numbers are kind of crazy, to be honest. And on just regular floating jump shots, Quickley has made 12 out of 30, which is right with Conley. Steph has been really accurate on the few attempts he's taken. Trae has been a brick on these type of shots. You see guys use their dribble to take pull-up threes or get to the rim, but Quickley has been using his dribble to take one of the more difficult shots you can take. That floater range area is the shot defenses do not mind giving up because defending right at the rim and the three-point line are more important. You don't really see a good portion of a guy's shot attempts being a floater. It's the three-point shot or a layup. Now, when did he start getting comfortable taking the floater? He played college basketball at Kentucky, and the floater is something that head coach John Calipari emphasizes during practices and off-season workouts. He wants his players to be good at that shot. Quickley is not the perfect player, of course. If his three-point shot isn't falling, it can get ugly efficiency-wise, and as I mentioned earlier, he's not exactly the most explosive athlete at his position, so he's not getting to the rim as often as you'd like, but he has a pretty unique skill set as a shooter who can play off of another creator, so he's always going to have a spot on a good team in my view. There's not many 40% three-point shooting guys who go to the floater when things break down. That's something a little bit different than the norm. You don't see many guys, matter of fact, you don't see many guys on rookie contracts really taking so many floaters. Quickley also has a little bit of an in-between game where he puts the defender on his hip or his back and he makes a play. That's a veteran type move. I want to see if he can start drawing fouls like Tony Parker does in like 7 or 8 years or something. Now, is he so much different than his counterparts? No, but it is refreshing to turn on a Knicks game and you're seeing a first-year guy come in with his own style. And he's already one of the best free throw shooters in the league, so you can have him at the end of games when teams are fouling. The Knicks might have something going here. You add in some other players in the next few years with some more development from RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and Immanuel Quickley. You might have something. Tom Thibodeau is one of the best player coaches in the league, so I don't see why he can't continue to get better. And that is it for me. As always, appreciate it if you make it to the end of these videos. My next one that'll be out. It's honestly one of my favorite video ideas, so be on the lookout for that, maybe the day after the All-Star game.